Okie dokie, Algebra 2 class. We are doing solving radical equations. That is the first blank is radical. Equations with radicals that have a variable are called radical equations. We are going to solve that first one. Because it is a cube root, we have to cube both sides. That gives us 2x plus 27. Subtract 7. 2x equals 20. And then divide by 2 to get x equals 10. Then to check our solutions, we're used to this. We found that x equals 10, so we're going to substitute that into the original equation and just make sure it works out. So for this first section, if you've gotten the correct answer, they should all work out. But in the second section, we'll see where some of them do not always work out. That one worked. Moving on to number 2, the first thing we do is add 9. And then again, since it's a cube root, we have to cube both sides to get x by itself. And then if you have your calculator, 8 times 8 times 8 is 512. I did find a free graphing calculator app in case y'all need it. For iPhones at least, but I don't remember what it was called. I just searched calculator in the App Store and found one that worked pretty well. Alright, for number 3, we squared both sides. We end up with x equals -9. Alright, on this next page, I'm not going to show myself checking these problems, but I would love it if you guys did that. Just to speed this video up, I am just going to be solving the equations. So the first thing for number 4 is divide by 2. And then we are going to cube both sides to get x minus 3 by itself. And add 3 to both sides to get x equals 11. The next one is a little tricky. Right, if you remember multiplying fractions, let's divide by 3 first. When we multiply by the reciprocal, that's what cancels out. So that's what we're going to do with the exponent. We are going to raise it to the power of the reciprocal. So for this one, flip it and it's 2/3 to get everything to cancel to get x by itself. So you're going to have to bring back in your memory that the denominator becomes the root number and the numerator becomes the exponent. Cube root of 125 is 5, and then 5 squared is 25. Alright, again for number 6, first things first, divide by -2. And then raise it to the reciprocal, so -4/3. It should cancel, get x by itself. The denominator 3 becomes the root, and the numerator becomes the power. So the cube root of 8 is 2. 2 to the -4 means 1 over 2 to the 4th, which is 16. So 1 to the 16th. Number 7, just very slight change. It's not just x to a power, it is x minus 5, but we do the same thing. Raise it to the power of the reciprocal to get x minus 5 by itself. And then we change to the 4th root of 81 cubed. The 4th root of 81 is 3, and 3 cubed is 27. And then add 5 to both sides, we get x equals 32. Had a little trouble here scrolling down. Sorry about that. Alrighty, number 8. First thing I need to do is get that 3 away, and then I can deal with the power next. So x plus 2 to the 2/3 equals 4. Then raise it to the 3/2, the reciprocal. X plus 2 equals the square root of 4 to the third power. Square root of 4 is 2 to the third power is 8, and then x just equals 6. All right, that next bullet point, when you check an answer and it does not result in a true expression, this answer is called extraneous. It is extra. So for this, we are going to square both sides to get rid of that square root. This means that we will have to FOIL, because we have x plus 1 times x plus 1, and then the square root just goes away on the other side when you square it. So x squared plus x plus 1 equals 7x plus 15. Right, and then we are combining like terms, and this next step, we want to get everything on one side so that it equals 0. So I just subtract 7x and subtract 15 to get them to the other side. Now I factor, and the answer is the opposite of what's in parentheses. Remember, you're solving as if it is x minus 7 equals 0 and x plus 2 equals 0. So right now I'm checking for extraneous solution. So let's see if these does not work out. Right, the square root of 84 is 8, and so 7 worked. You cannot just assume that the next one will not, because sometimes they both work out, so you do have to check both answers. Checking -2, I end up with -1 equals the square root of 1, and I'm only looking for positive square roots, so that one does not work out. That'll happen in a couple other ones. We only want a positive one for that one. Right, so -2 was extraneous. It did not work out. Right, and moving on to number 10. Square both sides. This one we don't have to FOIL, thankfully. It's a little faster. Just gets rid of the square root. And then I'm just simplifying. I didn't write out all my steps, but y'all know how to solve equations, hopefully, at this point. And then I'm going to check and make sure 2 is truly an answer. Looks like it. Alright, we're moving on to number 11. Again, I had issues scrolling back and forth. I'll get used to this. Alright, number 11, I do have to FOIL, and I have to FOIL with a fraction, but it's a half, so hopefully that's not too bad. And I've already worked it out for you, so you don't have to do the math in your head. We have x minus a half times x minus a half equals, square root goes away, so 1/4 x. First, x squared minus 1/2 x minus 1/2 x plus 1/4 equals 1/4 x. A negative a half and a negative and another negative 1/2 turns into -1. So I have x squared minus x plus 1/4 equals 1/4 x. Then I subtract the 1/4 x from both sides, and that results in a -5/4 x. Alright, I don't know how to factor with fractions, so I'm multiplying everything by 4 to get rid of that fraction, get rid of the denominator. And now I'm going to use that trick. So to factor when the first number is not 1, we multiply the first and the last together, and then factor. So x squared minus 5x plus 4 factors into x minus 4 and x minus 1. And then since we got rid of that 4x, we got to add it back in somewhere. So divide by 4, and if it doesn't divide, you swing it up to the front. So that means x equals 1 and x equals 1/4. Now it's time to check and see what happens when we plug both of those numbers in to make sure one of them or both of them are not extraneous. Alright, I'm just showing you that the square root of 1/4 is 1/2. So 1 does work out. And then 1/4 minus a half. So plugging in 1/4 this time. 1/4 minus 1/2 is a negative 1/4. And then the square root of 1/4 times 1/4 is 1/4. So again, we only want the positive square root, sorry, little glitch. So that one doesn't work. So only one solution for number 11. Number 12, square both sides just like we've been doing. X plus 3 times x plus 3, and then we get rid of the square root on the other side. We're already on the last problem. Woohoo! Right, I'm going to simplify. And then I'm again going to move everything over to the left side so that it's x squared minus 4x equals 0. This one's a little easier to factor. Just pull out an x, and it's x times x minus 4 equals 0. So x equals 0, and x equals 4. We didn't have an x plus 1, x minus 2, or anything like that time. Made it a little. This is one of the cases where both problems, or both solutions, work, so neither is extraneous, which is why it's important to check both of your solutions. We know that 7 is the square root of 49. So, they both work. I love y'all to pieces. I miss y'all to pieces. I hope you're having a good break. Please let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. I love y'all. Bye.